Sports.
We are Baltimore. We are Arizona.
A picture-perfect mid-May weather day. Home in Arizona, the Nationals are in Chase Field for 3 games, but tonight this may as well be Caesars Palace or the MGM Grand, because we'll go toe-to-toe with something a whole lot better than Mayweather-Pacquiao. It's a heavyweight battle between two of baseball's best power hitters, so sit back, relax, and watch Bryce Harper match up with Paul Goldschmidt on Fox Sports Arizona. And good evening from Chase Field. Welcome to the broadcast. Steve Berthune, Bob Brenly along the way. It's the D-backs and the Washington Nationals, first of a 3-game series. Well, the old saying in boxing is that styles make fights. And if that's true, we may have a real slugfest in store for you here tonight, Bob, because we have got 2 toe-to-toe power punchers going head-to-head here in this 3-game series.
Boy, if you're a baseball person, this is the kind of series you look forward to. You got 2 of the best hitters in the National League on top of their game right now. Bryce Harper has been in heat for the better part of 10 days, and Paul Goldschmidt has been hitting well all season long. This should be a good one.
Look at these numbers for Harper last 4 games. He had a season in 1 series against the Atlanta Braves.
Yeah, everybody says he slowed the game down, and that's a scary thing when you're a physically talented hitter like Bryce Harper is. He's hitting everything hard.
And then Goldie, over his last dozen games, has been hitting everything for the D-backs.
It's amazing because we laughed about it last night. He had an 0 for 5 with 4 strikeouts wedged in that 10-day period, but all the other games he was raking.
Since May 6th, the D-backs and the Nationals are tied for the major league lead in home runs, and these 2 guys are the main reasons why. Bryce Harper and Paul Goldschmidt, that is your heavyweight bout here tonight in the opener of this 3-game series at Chase Field. When we come back, we'll talk a little bit about the pitching. Don't forget about those guys. How could you forget about Max Scherzer, the former Diamondback? He's on the mound, the $210 million man for the Nationals. It's Josh Colmenter for the Diamondbacks. Baseball coming up next from Chase Field. Is brought to you in part by Cox Gigablast. How will you live the gig life? By Lone Butte Casino. You're in for more winning moments at Lone Butte Casino. And by Jack in the Box. Jack's hottest sandwich is back. Head to Jack in the Box for Jack's Blazing Chicken Sandwich.
Welcome back to Chase Field on this Monday night. The Diamondbacks about to start a 3-game series with the Washington Nationals. Jody Jackson with you. We all know what kind of power pitching the Washington Nationals bring, and that is no different with tonight's starter, Max Scherzer. Now, you may remember Max Scherzer began his career as an Arizona Diamondback. Here is a breakdown of it. His last start was here, his last appearance here in 2009 with the D-backs, then went over to the Detroit Tigers, where he was a 21-game winner in 2013, a Cy Young Award winner, and in the offseason signed a 7-year deal with the Washington Nationals. This year, 6 games, 49 strikeouts, just 5 walks. I wanted to talk about strikeout to walk ratio with Nationals pitching coach Steve McCatty, but he was just so blown away with what Max Scherzer has brought to Washington.
He has a tremendous knowledge of what he wants to do, and I've been really impressed with that because he knows, I think he knows what he is, and he's a lot more in depth about pitching than people probably realize. And then it also helps have quality stuff. I guess that's the biggest thing. His pitchers are all plus.
Well, of course, it is the repertoire of pitches that Max Scherzer has, the velocity at which he throws them. But when Steve McCatty talks about that intelligence, he said he reads swings extremely well, and that's part of what makes him very successful. Well, Josh Colementor has been pretty successful for the Arizona Diamondbacks in his career. They're looking for a big start out of Colementor tonight to get this series started off the right way. First pitch coming up next.
D-backs winners of 4 of their last 6. They've scored 40 runs over those 6 games. They've had good pitching as well, and now set to open up a 3-game visit from the Washington Nationals, who after a slow start have really picked things up in D.C. Their offense is rolling right now, and they've got Max Scherzer, their $210 million man, on the mound tonight. For the Diamondbacks, your Arizona Ford starting pitcher, it's 29-year-old right-hander Josh Colementor, a winner in 3 of his last 4 starts.
Josh has been at his best this year when his team has needed him the most, and they used 5 pitchers in the ball game yesterday. Some roster moves that we'll tell you about as we move forward. So they'd like Josh to get deep into this ball game again tonight.
He is your Arizona Ford starting pitcher, 3-3, the 3.40 ERA. He has struck out 21 in his 6 starts this year and walked only 3. In fact, Josh has gone now 3 straight starts without issuing a base on balls. He has not issued a walk to his last 98 batters. And Denard Span looks at strike one. We're underway. Joe West, the crew chief, the Cowboy, is our plate umpire tonight. Span at 284 and 2 homers. He belts one high and deep and gone. Josh Colmenter, 2 pitches into the ball game, is down 1-0. Third of the year for Span.
Wow, that didn't take long. 2 pitches into the game. Span hits his 3rd home run of the year to give the Nats an early lead.
His 8th career leadoff homer.
Yeah, we know Josh needs to elevate that fastball above the top of the zone, keep the changeup and breaking ball down below the bottom, and that was a fastball that just caught way too much of the middle of the strike zone.
Well, remember, in his last start, Josh was staked to a big lead early Wednesday at Coors Field. Diamondbacks scored 13 runs in that game. Here's Yunel Escobar over the head of Aaron Hill at second base and into right center, and now he'll deal with Jason Worth. Remember that game? Josh had a big lead and ended up giving up 3 homers in that game at Coors Field Wednesday against the Rockies.
Pitching to the game conditions.
Let's take a look at the lineup for Matt Williams, Washington Nationals.
We've seen Denard Span at the top. He made his presence felt right away. Yunel Escobar will be playing third base. Jason Worth in left field. Bryce Harper out in right field. Ryan Zimmerman at first base. Wilson Ramos doing the catching. Ian Desmond at short. Danny Espinosa at second. And Max Scherzer doing the pitching for Matt Williams, Washington Nationals.
There's Matty, former Diamondback great. Jason Worth. That's in there for a strike. 0-1. Worth nagged by a sore right shoulder all season long and hitting just 190. He's had only 3 extra base hits all year, and the concern is that the surgically repaired right shoulder has sapped all his power. He's also getting up there a bit. He turns 36 years old in about a week, his 13th season in the big leagues.
He's had a nice run here at Chase Field recently. His last 8 games in this ballpark, hitting over 400 with a bunch of extra base hits, 3 doubles, 2 homers, driven in 8 games.
Trying to come back from that right shoulder operation. Matt Williams said last week that Worth's shoulder has been cranky and sore lately. The operation was back in January, and it was no small thing. It's been a long road back. Colmenter misses there, and he's behind 3 balls and 1 strike with Bryce Harper on deck. A home run and a single so far. The Nationals offense has really come alive as of late. They've won 10 of their last 12. And now to an immediate 1-0 lead here against Colmenter. Jason Worth, through his long career in the National League, has seen a lot of the Diamondbacks. A .322 career hitter in 67 games. Escobar holds it first. That one is down and away for a ball. And the first 3 have reached against Josh Colmenter. And here comes Harper.
We're told this Nationals team is a dead fastball hitting team, especially good fastballs in the low to mid 90s. Josh Colmenter doesn't even come close to approaching that with his heater. It'll be interesting to see how the lack of velocity that Josh features out there on the mound plays into the Nationals offense tonight.
Now, how, Bob, do you think they should attack Bryce Harper in this series, as hot as he is?
Well, ideally, you walk him. I mean, we used to do it with Barry Bonds when he was in his heyday and hitting home runs every other at bat. You just take the bat out of his hands. Now, it's a little stickier now because you've got 2 runners on base. And you could go ahead and walk him to load him up and go after Ryan Zimmerman. That's no trip to the beach either.
I used to say with Bonds all the time, even if it's third base, there's still a base open out there.
Still a base open, yeah.
And Harper, you saw the numbers. Look at this last 4 games, 4 straight multi-hit games, 10 hits in 16 at bats, including 6 homers and 13 RBIs. That's in 4 games. That's a month for some guys, and a good month.
It's a good year for some backup catchers. Talking to their hitting coach, Rick Shue, who was formerly the hitting coach here in Arizona, he just said this guy has just slowed the game down. His mechanics at the plate are to a point where he doesn't really even think about them anymore. Just see the ball and hit the ball.
The Diamondbacks are the only National League team that Harper has never homered against. Hitting an even 300 on the year, leading the National League with 11 homers. 1 off the lead for RBIs.
2-0 changeup, actually up in the zone, but Bryce Harper was geared for fastball and was way out in front that time.
1 ahead of Todd Frazier, 2 up on Goldie. The other thing about Harper, he's become at 22, keep that in mind, he's still only 22. A much more polished hitter this season. He is leading the major leagues in walks.
And we're told his whole game has gone to another level. He's not making a lot of the aggressive base running mistakes that he's made in the past. Defensively, he's not throwing wildly.
He belts this one toward the right field corner in Cincinnati. That's a fair ball. He plays it off the wall. Everybody had to hold up just to make sure that was going to stay in the yard. And finally, Escobar tags up.
Nice play. Ender stays right on it, chases it right to the corner at the foul pole there. Escobar ultimately went back and tagged up at second base and advances on to third. Worth went halfway between first and second and had to retreat back to first.
Allowed out number 1 for Ryan Zimmerman. Escobar at third now. Worth still at first. Ryan Zimmerman batting .232 on the year, 3 home runs. He has totaled 22 RBIs in 32 games so far. Clemente struggling to find the strike zone. 14 pitches so far, 8 of them balls. Big swing there at an 85-mile-an-hour cutter, and it's 1-1. Zimmerman has hit safely in 4 straight games, 11 of his last 13. And has been especially hot lately. This is there, and it's 2 balls and a strike. Here's a deep drive, high and out of here to left center. Ryan Zimmerman is 4th. And the Nationals have jumped out to a big lead here early against Josh Clemente.
Well, if they want to slug, we'll slug. Apparently they want to slug. Man, they've hit some balls hard already in this first inning. After swinging through a high fastball earlier in the sequence, Zimmerman gets all over this one. That was a long home run to left center field.
Even the only out the Diamondbacks have recorded so far was a deep fly ball to the right field corner. 103 miles an hour off the bat of Zimmerman. And his 4th of the year has made it 4-0 Washington. And here's the red hot Wilson Ramos. This is the guy who, right behind Bryce Harper, is the hot bat in the lineup right now. Just under .330 for the year. He's got a 13-game hitting streak. This is in the air to A.J. Pollock in center. 2 down.
Shortstop, number 20.
So Josh gives up 3 home runs in his previous start at Coors Field, and now 2 in the first inning here. 1 more out to get, and it's Ian Desmond. A solo shot to lead off the ball game by Denard Span, and a 3-run homer by Ryan Zimmerman. Scherzer's got to put the batting helmet on now, as Desmond, the number 7 hitter in the order, steps in. He's at .240 on the year with 2 homers.
Well, it can be a scary proposition facing an offense that's clicking on all cylinders recently. You just know you can't make a mistake. You got to be on the corners. You got to be down. You got to be above the top of the strike zone. Maybe throwing a few more off-speed pitches than he'd like in this first inning. But this Nationals team since April 28th has been putting them on the board in a hurry, just like the D-backs offense.
Josh has got to find some solid footing here, keep it a 4-0 game, and give his ball club a chance to get back in this thing against one of the best pitchers in baseball, Max Scherzer. 2-2 to Ian Desmond, the shortstop. The 25th pitch of the first inning coming up. And it's rolled to shortstop. Chris Owings throws him out, and the top of the first comes to an end. But the Nationals get 2 homers. They have a 4-0 lead. 8.5 more rounds to go in this heavyweight slugfest. D-backs going to step into the ring here against Scherzer when we come back. Thirty-year-old right-hander Max Scherzer, your Arizona Ford starting pitcher for the Nationals. Clayton Kershaw, James Shields, the only National League pitchers who have struck out more batters this year than Max Scherzer. Mark Trumbo, 6 strikeouts and 8 career at-bats against Scherzer, so he's not in the lineup tonight, but he does have our scouting report.
He's got a lot of deception. He's obviously got premium stuff too, but it's kind of tough. He's got a quick release and good arm speed on all his pitches. And he's just a really, really good competitor. So if you get a mistake, you're going to want to put that ball in play, and we're going to battle.
Well, he didn't make too many mistakes, and he worked very quickly here. Ender Inciarte leads it off for the Diamondbacks. Max Scherzer 2-3. The ERA is 2.11 on the year. and that ranks him 7th best in the National League. He has struck out 10 in each of his last 2 starts. In his last 4 starts, he's got 33 strikeouts and 1 walk. He has excellent command. Ciarte grounds out to Zimmerman, 1 away. Take a look at the lineup for Chip Hale's Arizona Diamondbacks.
Henry Ciarte in right field tonight. A.J. Pollock out in center. Paul Goldschmidt at first base. David Peralta will be in left field with Yasmani Tomas at third. Aaron Hill at second base. Chris Owings at shortstop. Tuffy Gosewish doing the catching for right-hander Josh Comenter.
A.J. Pollock now at 306 with 3 homers. A.J. had a pair of hits in the win over the Padres here yesterday, including his 3rd home run of the season. Off Scherzer. He recovers and throws him out.
Everybody in that first base dugout holding their breath, but Scherzer walking around behind the mound. Now he's going to concede as the coaches came out of that first base dugout along with the trainer. They looked out there to Max Scherzer and he kind of waved him out.
Well, he's with Washington after signing a free agent contract, 7 years, $210 million. He's a big investment. Joe West has something to smile about out there, so it looks like everything's okay.
They got him on the back of the left leg as he finished his follow-through, kind of spun around, tried to get out of the way, but ends up knocking it down and throws his best fastball of the night to first base.
Paul Goldschmidt now. Goldie looks at strike 1, hitting .345, ranks him 4th in the National League. He's 2 homers behind Bryce Harper for the league lead and 4th in RBIs. Goldie hitless yesterday in the win over San Diego, 0 for 3 with a strikeout. 0-2. Skies this one up into that light sky. Danny Espinosa at second base has it, and Scherzer with a 4-0 lead has a 1-2-3 first. 7 pitches, all strikes. D-backs down 4-zip.
Nationals with an early 4-0 lead as we head to the top of the second. Let's take a look at our Valley Honda keys to the game tonight. Harper Valley TBA. We're having a little fun with the Harper Valley PTA. The TBA stands for Take the Bat Away. And for the next 3 days, our good friend is our enemy, Matty. Sorry, we got to root against you for the next 3 days.
Hate to have him on the other side, but that's what we're looking at here. As Danny Espinosa steps in to lead off the Washington second. The Nationals with a solo homer by Denard Span to lead off the ball game, and a 3-run shot by Ryan Zimmerman have a 4-0 lead. Espinosa, a very disappointing offensive player in recent seasons, but the bat has come around this year. He's hitting .256 with 4 home runs.
It was good to catch up with Matty before the ball game today. He's always in a good mood before the game and after the game, but once it starts, you don't see him smiling like that.
Well, I hear it's a stressful job.
Yes, it is. The guy he was talking to lost all his hair because of it.
Here comes Owings. Can't make a play, and Espinosa's aboard. That's a base hit for Danny Espinosa, and the 4th of the ball game so far for Washington.
Pitcher number 31, Max Scherzer.
Espinosa's not a burner coming out of that left-handed batter's box. Chris Owings may have had enough time to glove and throw to first, but chooses to go to the bare hand play, and that ball just stayed down when it hit the dirt, and he can't come up with a clean.
So here's Max Scherzer. Chance to move the runner along if they so choose. Tomas comes in on the grass at third. Foul ball. Bob Henley, the third base coach down there. Tony Tarasco coaching at first. Tomas in halfway. Scherzer hits it in the hole, and Owings has no play. A pair of infield singles lead off the Nationals second.
Just hit it in a good spot. You'll see as Tomas is creeping in from third base. As the ball's delivered, Chris Owings was leaning towards second base, anticipating that possible bunt, hoping to get the force play at second base, and Scherzer crossed everybody up and hit that ground ball in the hole.
And now the top of the order comes around again with Espinosa at second and Scherzer at first. It's Denard Span, a leadoff homer to start the ball game. His 3rd of the year. He squares to bunt. Denard Span back in the lineup after an injury-riddled spring. This guy can be the engine that makes the lineup function up top. And he has reached base safely, counting tonight now in 15 of 17 games since he came back from the DL in the middle of April. He had a very difficult offseason with 3 surgeries. He knocks it into center, a base hit. They will wave Espinosa, and he will score. 5-0 Nationals. And the first 3 have reached against Josh Colmenter in the first 2 innings of the ballgame.
Now Span gets that foot down very early in his setup, keeps his hands back, lines this one right back up the middle of the field. Normally this is not a good time to overthrow the cutoff man, but with Max Scherzer as the trail runner out there at second base, he wasn't going to take any chances, so AJ tried to airmail it all the way to Tuffy and get the out at home. It was just a little too late.
Mike Harkey damage control at this point. Nationals with 5 runs on 6 hits, and Colmenter so far has retired only 3 batters. Let's go downstairs to Jody.
Well, obviously, Josh Colmenter struggling here. They did add some length to the bullpen today, bringing up Vidal Nuño. Of course, we know him as the starter last year. Evan Marshall option to Reno, and so maybe the first man in if Colmenter struggles here. Nuño worked a lot on his changeup and commanding it, and that's what they liked from him. The numbers don't really tell the story in Reno, of course, but he'll be part of this bullpen, guys, as a couple of guys in that pen are down.
Yeah, they're going to need some length back there, Jody, and Nuño has pitched very well for Phil Nevin down in Reno. And his last appearance with the Aces was a start at home against Sacramento last Wednesday, so he should be good to go if they need some innings tonight. Yunel Escobar singled and scored a run his first time. That's foul back here.
Well, with Daniel Hudson starting the ball game yesterday, you knew you were going to need some bullpen help behind him, but J.C. Ramirez was able to step up and give Chip Hale 2 2/3 innings, which took a lot of the stress, a lot of the pressure off the rest of that bullpen.
And Ramirez and Marshall in some ways are kind of the same guy, you know, 1-inning type power pitchers. And with Huddy now not being able to pitch, you presume next 2-3 days you're going to need some innings back there. So Nuno is here. They go 2 to Escobar.
You mentioned Evan Marshall too. You want to get him back to where he was last year. It was apparent that he just wasn't the same guy this year. Made a lot of mistakes up in the zone with his fastball. His secondary pitches were inconsistent. And we know he's much better than that. He'll hopefully go down there to Reno, get his legs back underneath him, and come back up and be a contributing member of that bullpen.
That's a fair ball down the right field line. They will stop Scherzer at third, and the Nationals have the bases loaded for Jason Worth. That's 7 hits so far against Josh Colmenter. Escobar is 2 for 2. Mike Harkey on the phone.
There have been some hard hit balls against Josh in the early going. This is not one of them. This is a little jam shot. He just dribbles it down that first baseline past a diving Paul Goldschmidt. We'd love to get a pop up on the infield right here.
Scherzer is the runner at third, Span at second, Escobar at first. Nuno has begun throwing in the Diamondback bullpen, and here's Worth, who walked and scored his first time. Came in on the Ryan Zimmerman 3-run homer in the first. With Josh Colmenter facing the Nationals for the 5th time in his career, Sanderson Ford bullpen, there is Vidal Nuno. Josh has had 2 starts against the Nats and 2 relief appearances for his career, 2-0 versus Washington, and the ERA is right about 2.5. But things have not gone his way so far tonight. Bases loaded, nobody out. Fly ball right center field. A.J. Pollock. Scherzer's at third. He will tag and he will score. And it's 6-0 Nationals as Span moves up to third.
Even their outs are scoring runs. Deep fly ball to A.J. Pollock in center field allows Max Scherzer to tag and score easily.
Bryce Harper now. Harper, his first time up, hit a high fly ball deep to the right field corner that Ender Inciarte made a catch on. That was actually the first out of the ball game. They're on the corners with 1 out, 6-0 Washington.
First pitch change up from Josh, not in the strike zone. Looked like a strike when it left his hand, ended up down below the knees.
That's in the seats, and Josh is ahead 0-2. Harper coming off a headline grabbing week at Nationals Park. He hit 3 home runs in 1 game against the Marlins on Wednesday, and then he homered twice in the next game against the Braves last Friday. And then Saturday hit a 2-run walk-off homer to beat Atlanta again. He became just the 5th player in Major League history to total 6 homers and 12 RBIs in a 3-game span. That one's in the dirt. And he was mobbed by the media after his big couple of days in D.C. And he said on Sunday, "I'm just trying to be the Bryce I am." Which is very existential, I thought.
Be the best Bryce you can be.
That's all we can ask. give it a look, but it's in the seats. This was the 2-run walk-off that beat the Braves Saturday.
Well, it's funny talking to Rick Shue, the Nationals hitting coach, about Bryce Harper. A little chocolate bath there. You know, he said in the past Bryce Harper was a guy that tried to hit the ball over the light tower every at bat. Big maximum effort swing that occasionally would get him into some bad habits, but he said he's really cut down on his swing and is actually hitting the ball farther because of it. Hasn't taken batting practice on the field since last Tuesday.
Superstition?
Well, they had a Wednesday day game after a Tuesday night game, and he just felt like he didn't need to get out on the field that early in the morning to take BP, and went out and had a great game and hasn't taken BP on the field since. Hits in the cage and then comes out and signs autographs.
2-2. The way he's going, the autographs are probably a workout. I mean, he's really matured as a hitter. This year he is swinging at fewer pitches outside the strike zone than ever before. And on pitches inside the zone, he's making better contact than he ever has in his career. And he's walking more than twice as often as he did last season. Holmenter misses inside, and it's full 3 balls and 2 strikes. I mean, you hit the nail on the head, Bob. He used to take the biggest, most out-of-control swings you ever saw, but this year, Bryce Harper got a walk rate of 20%, which is just about double his career average coming into the year. Much more patient up there, and he's worked a full count here and drops it into right field. Span will score. 7-0 Nationals. Here comes Chip Hill, and he's going to make the move he wants. Fidel Nuno. Josh Holmenter's night will end right here. He only got 4 outs and gave up 7 runs. Pitching change at Chase Field. 7-0 Washington. Back after this.
Hits the day before, he took a ball that was away from him, hit it to left field for a single, and of course the home runs. You know, they are what they are, but he's learning himself enough to where you know, he's being patient, sending the ball the other way, and you know, taking a swing at it when he needs to.
Matt Williams on Bryce Harper, still only 22 years old. You had a stat about his age and the pitchers?
He's never faced a pitcher in the major leagues younger
than he is. He's still the baby. Yeah. It's amazing. Well, it's our first look this year at the major league level at Fidel Nuno. El Nuno back, which of course is Spanish for the Nuno. 6 starts with AAA Reno this year, 3-2, a 3.23 ERA. Only 5 walks allowed against 37 strikeouts in 39 innings of work. Well, they had a feeling they might need some innings, so Evan Marshall is in Reno and Nuno is here, and they were right. Ryan Zimmerman, who hit a 3-run homer in the first, steps in after what has been so far the worst start of Josh Colmenter's career, and he's responsible for 2 more base runners.
Some nights you just run into a buzzsaw. This is a red-hot Nationals offense right now. They're playing with a lot of confidence.
Well, we promised a heavyweight slugfest. It turned out to be Mike Tyson versus Marvis Frazier. Nuno's last appearance with Reno, a start at home last Wednesday, so he should be good to go for a while here. 8 innings, 3 runs, 6 hits, didn't walk anybody, and had 9 strikeouts. And it was the second time in 4 starts with Reno that Nuno struck out 9 in a ball game. He's done well there this year. But he's behind on Zimmerman, 3-1. Ball 4, the bases are loaded.
Nuno did a nice job here at Chase Field last year. Only Josh Colmenter and Chase Anderson had a lower home ERA than Vidal Nuno at 3.86.
Yunel Escobar, the runner at third, Bryce Harper at second, Ryan Zimmerman at first. And here's the Washington catcher, Wilson Ramos, who comes into the ball game holding a 13-game hitting streak, batting .420 during his streak. Bases full, 1 out. Look out the dugout. Archie Bradley, thankfully, not pictured here. There's Archie. Almost got David Hernandez down there.
I think it might have hit that padded hole right there in front of him. He was just covering up. No time to react to that.
That's a fair ball down the left field line. Escobar will score. They wave Harper. Peralta picks it up in the corner. They're going to send Zimmerman as well. Here's the throw. And it's not in time. 10-0 Nationals. A 3-run double for Wilson Ramos, who's now hit in 14 straight.
After getting way out in front of an off-speed pitch and pulling it into the Diamondbacks dugout, he stays back just enough to keep that breaking ball fair down to third baseline, and it is off to the races for the Nationals. Bob Henry waving everybody home, even Ryan Zimmerman all the way from first base.
Well, the Diamondbacks have recorded 4 outs. The Nationals have scored 10 runs. And Max Scherzer is on the mound. 9th man to hit in this inning. It's the shortstop, Ian Desmond. Grounded out his first time. And every batter in the Nationals lineup tonight, with the exception of Desmond, has either a base hit or an RBI. Boy, the Nationals at one point this year, it's hard to even imagine watching this ball game tonight, but they were a disaster. They were 7-13 near the end of last month, but they got that figured out pretty quickly. They've won 10 of 12 coming in, 2 games over 500 as they begin their first Western road trip of the year after sweeping the Braves at home over the weekend. Yes, he went. Desmond strikes out. Danny Espinosa, who led off this inning with a single and scored a run, bats again here in the second. There's the strike, 0-1.
Well, we said this Nationals offense has been clicking on all cylinders in their last 12 ball games. These are the numbers: 6 runs a game. The team's hitting over 300, slugging close to 500, getting on base at a 363, and 43 extra base hits in their last 12 games.
Another remarkable thing about that is they're doing all this without the guy who might be their best hitter. That's Anthony Rendon. He hasn't played since the beginning of March, back in spring training when he sprained the MCL in his left knee, and then had to be shut down last week. He strained an oblique during his rehab. So Rendon's not even here and active. 0-2 on Espinosa.
They're hoping to get Rendon back by the end of the month. It's scary to think what this Washington offense would be with a healthy, clicking Anthony Rendon in the middle of it.
That's why everybody picked these guys to win the World Series. They were a very trendy preseason prediction. There's Mike Rizzo, the GM. The great Bob Boone on the left there, part of the Nationals front office. Boy, he was something else, Bob Boone.
He used to sit as still behind home plate as any catcher you would ever see. Give his sign and drop down into a real low crouch and put that glove right in the middle of his chest protector and just didn't move. Everything was so subtle. He made all the pitches look good.
Never saw anybody else who had that unusual type of mask that Bob Boone had either.
It was kind of an old school bar mask. Rather than have a cage, like even the one on Tuffy's hockey style mask, it was just solid bars like the umpires used to wear.
2-2 on Espinosa. That one got Tuffy.
Thankful to have any kind of a mask on after this foul tip. Slider from Nuno. Oof.
How do you manage a game like this when it's 10-0 in the second inning?
Well, I mean, this is where you really appeal to personal pride. We're getting embarrassed here early.
Well, the second comes to a merciful end. We'll go to the home half here. The Diamondbacks have a long mountain to climb. They're down 10-zip. Your tickets now for next Sunday, May 24th. You can pick up this D-backs Fedora cap courtesy of Gila River Casinos. And then on Saturday, June 6th, it's the Tony La Russa bobblehead from Chevrolet. And then Saturday, June 20th, fans can get the D-backs backpack. Don't miss any giveaway games this year. Get your tickets right now at dbacks.com. Well, Max Scherzer has thrown 7 pitches in the ball game, and he's got a 10-0 lead. The Nationals with 4 in the first and 6 in the second. And David Peralta leads off the bottom of the second for the Diamondbacks. Peralta, Tomas Hill, 4, 5, and 6 against Mad Max, who should feel pretty comfortable out there right now, up 10-0. There's strike one to Peralta, hitting .278, 4 homers and 14 RBIs. David 0 for 3 in yesterday's win over the Padres. That snapped a 4-game hitting streak. 10-0 is one thing. 10-0 versus this guy is something else entirely. He's rolled to second. Espinosa, 1 away. Yasmani Tomas.
And always keep pushing no matter the game score. You think back to that streak that started on April 28th for the Nationals. They were down 9-0 to the Atlanta Braves, 10-1, or maybe it was 9-1, 10-2. They were behind in that ball game. Came back and won 13-12. And you talk to the Nationals, let's say that was the turning point. That game was the turning point. Diamondbacks need to have some kind of a turning point here rather quickly.
Well, what goes around comes around, let's hope. Tomas, 296, 7 homers. 7 RBIs, pardon me. Big swing and a miss there, 1-1. Food Truck Alley. They change it up all the time. Every series, every homestand, different food trucks out there right on the main concourse outside Chase Field. And the reviews from Food Truck Alley are all thumbs up. People are raving.
Wood fire pizza.
Surprised you're not driving that truck.
The reason they're closing down is because I cleaned them out.
1-2. That's in there for strike 3. First strikeout for Scherzer, who has retired all 5 he's faced.
Second baseman, number 2, Aaron.
Scherzer has all kinds of weapons at his disposal. A fastball he can throw anywhere between 90 and 98 miles per hour. He's got a cut fastball he's using more this year. Curveball, slider, changeup. And on a given night, you may see more of one breaking ball over the other. And on some nights, you might just see a bunch of fastballs.
Aaron Hill looks at strike 1. 268 now, 3 home runs. All 3 homers coming in his last 7 games. Got number 3 here yesterday.
Hey fans, anytime the D-backs score 5 runs or more, Taco Bell is giving away 3 free tacos with the purchase of a large drink between 4 and 6 the following day at participating locations.
Max Scherzer, the former Diamondback. This is his first start at Chase Field since late September of 2009. Since his trade from the D-backs, he's faced Arizona only 1 time. That was June of 2010 in Detroit. Scherzer tonight, Strasburg tomorrow, Gio Gonzalez Wednesday afternoon on getaway day. He did not go, says Kerwin Danley down there.
You'll see the numbers, the career progression of Max Scherzer after the trade to the Tigers. This guy is really something. You know, we talked a lot about Bryce Harper already tonight and his offense and how he's matured at the age of 22. Well, Max Scherzer's kind of figured out this pitching thing as well.
Played collegiately at the University of Missouri, first round pick by the D-backs in 06, the 11th overall selection. And now the $210 million man. 3-2 to Hill. Dropped it in there for strike 3. Back-to-back strikeouts. And the second, Scherzer has retired all 6 he's faced. He's got a 10-0 lead.
Bell, the former Diamondback, at that time playing with the Pittsburgh Pirates, ground out to Juan Bell of the Philadelphia Phillies and was called out by umpire Wally Bell. Of course, we're showing Matt Williams because one of the great posters I have in my office at home. Jay Bell scoring the winning run in Game 7 of the World Series, and Matt Williams right there waiting for him at home plate. Two of the greatest representatives this organization ever had.
Max Scherzer leads off the top of the third for the Nationals against Vidal Nuno, on in relief of Josh Colmenter, who had the worst start of his career here tonight. Nats with 4 in the first and 6 in the second. I believe you actually have a shot of your artwork you're talking about. There it is right there.
I thought mine was special, but we had one hanging in the back of the booth. I have this very picture hanging at home, and it says a lot. I mean, Matt Williams and everything he went through in his career, Jay Bell and everything he went through in his career, and you know, I can't imagine a better feeling than those two guys meeting at home plate after winning a World Series.
That is a great shot, and it's signed by both players there. Hanging in our booth here, the Joe Garagiola Senior broadcast booth at Chase Field. Well, Nuno's got 3 strikeouts. He's struck out, in fact, the last 3 he's faced. And here's Denard Span now with 1 out. Span has homered, singled. He's scored twice. He's got 2 RBIs, and it's the 3rd inning. Mentioned all those offseason surgeries for Span. He had sports hernia surgery in December. Then in February needed another operation. This one was a procedure on a right core muscle. And then he actually needed another core muscle procedure on March 9th on the other one. One surgery on each side of his body. Didn't make his season debut until April 19th.
I've always marveled at Denard Span because his head moves so much in his approach to the pitcher. He assumes his stance in that batter's box, and then he drops his head down a good 6 or 8 inches right there. Seems to work for him.
Well, Vidal Nuno's got it working. He has now struck out 4 in a row. 2 down in the 3rd.
Third baseman,
El Nuno.
Watch Denard Span. Watch how his head drops as Nuno goes into his delivery out there. Most hitting coaches want guys to keep their head as still as possible so that ball's not moving around any more than it needs to.
Well, here's a guy who almost never strikes out, Yudel Escobar, and he bangs it into left. Escobar's 3 for 3. He will always, it seems, put the ball into play. He's a very good hitter.
Jason Worth.
Brings up Jason Worth.
Escobar got a reputation early on in his career of being a difficult teammate, occasionally bumping heads with management, but according to all reports, talking to Mike Rizzo, the general manager, Matt Williams, the manager, they're glad to have him. They say he's a great teammate.
Yeah, he's with his 6th different team in 9 seasons, Yudel Escobar. Here's Jason Worth. Walked and scored in the first. An RBI sac fly his last time up. He needs second base umpire Rob Drake to move to the other side. Great story in the Washington Post last week about Yudel Escobar growing up in Cuba. When he was 21, he left his family behind, got together with a group of close friends, and made it to the U.S. by boat, trying to make it to the big leagues. A long process. A woman contact in the U.S. he had met while she was visiting Havana contacted some smugglers and some agents on Escobar's behalf and arranged to bring he and his friends out of Cuba for $10,000 apiece. What an ordeal. And the passage was in rough seas. It took 3 days. All they had to eat was crackers and water. They had to sleep out on the deck of the boat. The boat ran out of gas. It was surrounded by sharks. Eventually they made it, but had to live with their smugglers for 8 months until they were paid their money. And so when Escobar finally signed with the Braves for just under $500,000, he paid the smugglers $50,000 to release he and all his friends. And the smugglers, he says, are now in prison for other crimes.
So a day game after a night game is no big deal.
You better believe it. Cuban third baseman Yasmani Tomas. Worth fouls off the 3-2 pitch. Tomas has never talked about the way he left Cuba. That's something he prefers to keep to himself. To Aaron Hill. And Bedell Nuno is through the third. D-backs trail the Nationals 10-0.
Here at Chase Field, and a great sight. Archie Bradley, who's recovering from that line drive to the face, back on the mound today through 60 pitches, a simulated game, and he told the batters, he said, look, I want you to treat it like it's a regular game. If it's a ball, I want to be down in the count. Now, Cliff Pennington hit 2 balls at Archie. They didn't hit him, but one came close to his midsection, and then Penny apparently called out to general manager Dave Stewart and said, am I still on the team? But Archie said that was actually a good thing. It was going to happen at some point, so before it happens in game in Philadelphia on Saturday, if a ball comes back at him, Chip Hale was impressed. He didn't even flinch, and Archie said, look, I didn't flinch at all. It was fine, and he felt very good out there, guys.
Chris Owings fouls that one in the seats. Thank you, Jody. Bob, I think, we talked about this. I think that goes back to Archie's football days. He's used to taking shots. Nothing ever close to what he took off the bat of Carlos Gonzalez, but getting hit is nothing new for him.
Yeah, I'm sure he took some shots to the helmet or the face mask.
CO. Ian Desmond at shortstop. Can't throw him out. Owens beats it out. First Diamondback hit. Ian Desmond has been at times this year a defensive disaster. He committed a staggering 8 errors in the Nationals' first 12 games this year, but his defense has really settled down lately.
I think the difference is the spin to his right there. Takes so long to gather, and you can't get much on the throw at that point. And with Chris Owings' speed, he's able to leg it out for the first D-backs hit in this game.
Tuffy goes a wish.
We're talking about Desmond and his defense. This is amazing. In the first 20 games of the season, in 2013, 2014, and this year, he made 24 errors in 254 chances. The rest of those seasons, he made 29 errors in over 1,200 chances.
It is one of the most unusual patterns in all of baseball. He cannot make a defensive play, it seems, in the month of April. And then after that, he's one of the best in the business.
And we asked Matty, did you guys take any ground balls in spring training? He says, yeah, we took ground balls every day. We had infield practice 5 days a week. And Desmond still starts the season in a fielding slump.
That's in the seats. I mean, no errors in the last 12 games, only 1 in the last 20. But imagine this, 8 errors by your shortstop in your first 12 games. It's like he's got handcuffs. That one cost him a ball game when Scherzer was on the mound. He called off Dan Uggla right there, and it dropped in. 1-2 on Gozowicz. Foul ground first base side. Ryan Zimmerman.
Actually got to the point where Desmond changed gloves.
Number 54.
Try something different.
Yeah, he began the season with a brand new black Mizuno glove that he broke in. He said the new glove wasn't working, and if it ain't working, fix it, he said. So he went to the backup glove, a tan Mizuno. That's right there. It's the same model. Desmond says it was his practice glove a couple of years behind the gamer that he'd been using for 4 or 5 years, but that glove just got to a point where he couldn't use it anymore. And now he says the tan glove is just perfect for game conditions, and that black model, the new one, is, he says, serving its time as a backup until it's ready.
In the penalty box.
Yes. Vidal Nuno pops it straight up in the air, almost makes a nice play to run it down.
Pretty athletic play by the catcher. Ramos getting up out of the chute, turning around, loses the mask. He's in a dead sprint toward the backstop. And just able to catch it before he crashes into the barrier there. That ball wasn't popped very high in the air. He had to get back there quickly.
2 down now, brings up Ender Inciarte, who grounded out his first time up. Wilson Ramos is really, really good. If he could just stay healthy, the way he hits the ball. Scherzer loves pitching to Wilson Ramos. They have really developed a chemistry. Ender now at 301 on the year. This is belted into right center field. Owens will take the turn. He'll head for third. Andy Green going to stop him there. And it's a 2-out double for Ender Inciarte, his 9th this year. Down 10 runs, you're not sending anybody home unless you're sure.
You figure Scherzer's going to throw even more strikes than normal with a 10-run lead in the ball game. He's going to come in that strike zone just about every count now. And Inciarte ready for it. Turned that fastball around into the gap in right center for a double.
2 on, 2 outs for A.J. Pollock. A.J. hit one off Scherzer's wallet back in the first inning. Look out. Jordan Pacheco is in the on-deck circle, and he is apparently going to give Paul Goldschmidt down 10-0 the rest of the night off.
That's another thing that's pretty standard procedure when one team finds himself way ahead or way behind. Get some of those bench guys some at bats, maybe play guys at a position to see how they handle it.
Well, we promised our heavyweight fight, and it looks like it's a 3rd round TKO for Bryce Harper. Goldie is down and out.
I don't think this was Goldie's choice. Of course, he never wants to come out of a ball game under any circumstances.
0-1 to AJ. But you know, you always think about this. Always comes up. We eventually reach a point, Bob, in every season where we say, well, you got to get Goldie a day off somewhere. Well, why not, you know, give him half a day or so here, down 10-0. Of course, he's gone through all his usual pregame preparations and routines, and that's a whole work ethic in of itself. But it looks like he'll get the rest of the night off here. 0-2 on AJ. And Scherzer has his 3rd strikeout. Diamondbacks strand 2. They trail it 10-0. Go Bananas. Go Bananas. Remember that cheer from high school basketball games? Hey fans, your chance to beat the Heat. Tonight's word, if you haven't guessed already, is churro. Log on to foxsportsarizona.com/beat the Heat. Enter the word churro for your chance to win a trip to San Diego for the July 4th weekend. All throughout May, we'll give you the word of the day during every game. Once you see it, go to foxsportsarizona.com/beat the Heat and enter that word as Bryce Harper pops up. AJ runs it down. The more times you enter, the better your chances. More information at foxsportsarizona.com. So the password is churro. One away in the fourth. Jordan Pacheco takes over for Goldie at first. You like this move?
I'm not crazy about it because I love to watch Goldie play baseball, but you hit it right on the head. It's tough to get Goldie out of the lineup. It's tough to give him an off day. He's such an integral part of this team offensively, defensively, running the bases. But I think he would benefit from taking the rest of the night off against Max Scherzer.
Ryan Zimmerman bounces one to Tomas in the hole. Tell you what, Fidel Nuno's doing a pretty good job here. Gave up that 3-run double to Wilson Ramos. And he's got 4 strikeouts, and he's sort of settled things at least. And here is Ramos with 2 outs. I think what we need to do is run the Churro Dog song every time Bryce Harper hits, because it worked. Got him out there pretty quickly. Lines it right to Aaron Hill. And El Nino works a 1-2-3-4. Here it is. Back after this. Bryce Harper versus Paul Goldschmidt. How about this? The only players in the major leagues with these numbers in all these categories.
The National League pitchers can't get Bryce Harper out, but the Churro ladies took care of him in that last at bat.
I think that might turn into our good luck song. So Goldie gets the rest of the night off, and Jordan Pacheco will lead off the 4th inning. Bryce Harper so far, an RBI single. He scored a run, 1 for 3. We always try to worry about, oh, when's the day? When can we give Goldie at least one day here? He goes months at a time without ever missing an at bat, it seems, let alone a whole day off. So a chance here to get him a bit of a breather as Pacheco drives it to dead center. But Span runs it down. Well, Max Scherzer with a 10-0 lead so far. He's given up only 2 hits. Mentioned earlier how he has really developed a chemistry with his new catcher Wilson Ramos behind the plate, working together this year for the first time. Ramos, when he first caught Scherzer in spring training, the very first bullpen, had to switch catcher's mitts and go from his new stiffer glove to an older one that was more broken in because he was having trouble catching Scherzer's stuff. The pitches had so much action on them. Here's a high fly ball to Harper and right. He's got it just shy of the wall. But they think very much alike out there, Max Scherzer and Wilson Ramos. And Matt Williams has said, you know, these guys understand each other. They are in sync. You won't see Scherzer shaking off a lot. And Scherzer says he and Ramos are on the same page on where to mix and match the off-speed stuff, when to go soft in certain counts, when to stay with the hard stuff. Ramos has a really good feel for that, he says. And Ramos says that he's impressed because you think, well, Max Scherzer just comes in, throws really hard, blows guys away. But no, he's one of the guys in baseball that really likes to do a lot of different things. Likes to pitch different every time. They get Tomas. A 5-pitch fourth inning. Max Scherzer rolling along. We are through 4. Nice play there by the new first baseman Ryan Zimmerman, and the Diamondbacks trail it 10-0.
Here at Chase Field during any Diamondbacks regular season home game.
Ian Desmond leads off the Washington 5th against Fidel Nuño, who's retired 4 straight. On in relief of Josh Colmenter. It was a rough outing for Josh tonight if you're just joining us. He retired only 4 batters, gave up 9 runs, all earned on 8 hits, including 2 homers. Chris Owings goes top shelf to snag that one. They retired Desmond, who's 0 for 3.
Second baseman, Danny Espinosa.
Had a beat on it the whole way. Probably had a little more ups than he showed right there.
Here's Espinosa. Singled and scored a run and has struck out 1 for 2. Base hit. The 11th hit for the Nationals so far. And Max Scherzer steps up now.
Pitcher Max Scherzer.
That ends a stretch of 5 in a row set down by Nuño. Scherzer swinging away, drops it into left center field. Max Scherzer tonight 2 for 3. A pair of singles.
One of the first things you usually notice about Max Scherzer, besides his outstanding arsenal out there on the mound, the 2 different colored eyes. If I'm not mistaken, it's called heterochromia. clearly see the left one is brown, the right one is blue. I don't think that's an advantage out there on the mound, but I imagine hitters probably complain about it. Hey, make him pick one eye color.
He doesn't need any more advantages. He's got enough, especially tonight. 10 runs on 12 hits. Here's Span, who homered to lead off the ball game. An RBI single in the second. He's 2 for 3. I think he's trying to get into Jason Worth territory with that beard. That's the view that Toby has down in that corner. High in the air to left center field, playable for Peralta. That's the second out in the fifth. Well, Yunel Escobar so far 3 for 3, all singles. He has scored twice. And he's off to a really good start in his first season in Washington. Now up to .330 on the year. He's always been a good on-base guy. The on-base percentage is over .360 this year. Really good contact hitter up there. He's hit all over the lineup, all kinds of different spots for Matt Williams this year. And his bat is really hot right now. He was hitting better than .360 in his previous 13 games, and he's 3 for 3 tonight. Escobar actually had to leave their game Sunday against Atlanta early. He was out after only 3 innings with a stomach bug, but it looks just fine here.
Yeah, 3 hits in the first 3 innings of a ball game will cure a lot of ailments.
2 on, 2 out. That is up the middle, and it's under Owings. Here comes Espinosa. Escobar 4 for 4. It's 11-0 Washington.
Boy, not only are they getting a bunch of hits over the last couple of weeks, but they've been getting them when they need them the most. 4 games leading into tonight, they were 12 for 27 with runners in scoring position. That's a .474, or rather .444 team average. Tonight they're 6 for 10 with runners in scoring position.
Two on, 2 out for Jason Worth. Still looking for his first hit tonight. Walked and scored a run, drove in a run with a sacrifice fly. Nuno ahead 0-2.
Jason Worth's beard. That's something. If the rough at a golf course was that thick and that deep, you'd take a drop. You wouldn't even try to hit your ball out of it.
That's a U.S. Open beard right there. Yeah, that's OB right there, that beard.
Yeah. And we know he's not a Jason Worth fan. He's got a D-back shirt on.
U.S. Open on Fox this year, by the way.
Oh, nice, nice.
2-2 to Worth. Full count. Harper's on deck. The Harper Valley TBA. Take the bat away so far. 1 for 3, an RBI single in the second for Bryce Harper. 3 balls, 2 strikes, 2 outs, 2 on. Scherzer at second, Escobar at first. There go the runners. This is a high fly ball to shallow right, Inciarte coming in. Well, the Nationals get one more. They lead it 11-0.
Prepared to complete a pretty amazing feat, biking around the country, biking for baseball. This is Matt Stoltz. Matt, you've been going around the country. Your plan is to hit 30 stadiums and raise money for a very important cause. And which number is Chase Field right now?
Yeah, so this is stadium number 7. I started opening day in Seattle, made my way down the West Coast, so I'm about 2,200 miles in. And I got 9,000 miles left, so it's been quite an adventure so far, but there's a lot more in store.
Have you been wearing some sunscreen?
Yeah, I try to, but it sweats off pretty quick, so you get some pretty great tan lines that are kind of inevitable when you spend that much time outside.
Well, you had a lot of support, I know, from a lot of different people, including some players. In fact, you're in the suite right now of Erica and Max Scherzer, and in what ways have they been supportive of you?
Yeah, they've been incredible, reaching out to different contacts they know outside the league, supporting our cause directly. And we really, Biking for Baseball really believes youth mentorship is really important, so we partner a lot with Big Brothers, Big Sisters, and we want every kid to have a mentor in their life. And Erica and Max really support that same cause, so it's great to have that kind of support that really helps spread awareness and raise money for a great cause.
So how do you do this? Beyond mapping it out and having your bike, you have to figure out where you're going to stay, how you're going to carry everything on the bike, right?
Yeah, so it's a pretty complicated system that you got to get used to, kind of living the nomadic lifestyle. I stay with a lot of strangers, camp some nights, and you make a lot of friends, and that's the best way to do it. So there's a lot of crazy stories you get from a trip like this.
No question. Now, your website, bikingforbaseball.org, if people would like to donate.
Yep, exactly, and they can also follow along on Twitter and Instagram, biking4baseball. We have a lot of really cool pictures that we like to share with people who want to follow along on the trip.
I know you're from Wisconsin, but you started out in Seattle, so where are you headed next?
Yeah, I'm actually headed to Denver, and then I kind of zigzag across the country from there on out. There's really no straight shot to hit all 30 stadiums, so you got to work with the schedule, work with the teams, and make it work.
That's fantastic. Did you bring a jacket? It's been a little chilly and snowy at Coors Field.
Yeah, I'm from Wisconsin, so I think my skin is pretty thick as it is, so I should be good, but I mean, weather will throw you some hurdles, but you kind of roll with the punches and take it one day at a time.
Matt, that's fantastic. Love what you're doing for young people. Good luck to you.
Thank you very much. Really appreciate it.
All right, now, Matt has had some people join him on his way. I mean, guys, I know if you weren't so busy doing baseball games, maybe you'd hop on a bike with Matt, right?
Always. He's got the two characteristics of the cyclist. As Chris Owings drops that into right field for a base hit, are the cyclist tan, which he clearly had in the shaved legs.
I wonder how many flat tires he's had already.
Catcher, Toffee, goes Owings.
Those are a bummer, man. Well, Chris Owings 2 for 2. A 1-out single in the 5th. There's Tuffy Gosewich. Maybe we just give him a couple of churro dogs. That should fuel him up for the next 1,000 miles or so. Excuse to run the churro dog song one more time. Tuffy, base hit. Back-to-back singles for the Diamondbacks. And now Nuno will hit.
Nuno.
Vidal Nuno just called up today from AAA Reno. Evan Marshall was sent down. They need some length back there, and they really needed it tonight. Scherzer has been uber efficient here. That's his 50th pitch of the ball game. And it comes with 1 out in the 5th. 50 pitches so far, 37 strikes. Nuno gets it up in the air toward the left field corner. Worth has it near the foul line. That's out number 2. Brings up Ender Inciarte.
Right field, Ender Inciarte.
Max Scherzer, the forward Diamondback. Washington rotation wasn't announced until this weekend. Things got a little messed up for them. Ender doubled his last time up. Steven Strasburg came out of his previous start with back tightness, so they decided that Strasburg will pitch tomorrow, which is 1 day later than his usual turn in the Nationals rotation. And so because of that, Scherzer was moved up 1 spot to pitch this ball game. But they had an off day Thursday, so he's pitching tonight on regular rest despite moving up a spot in the rotation. So it kind of worked out for them, and they got Strasburg an extra day.
When a guy has a reputation of being a big-time strike thrower like Max Scherzer, occasionally a hitter will go up there to the plate and assume you're going to get something in the zone. That time, Scherzer elevated a fastball up above the top of the strike zone, and Inciarte couldn't hold up.
Ramos keeps it in front, 1-1. Max Scherzer in some ways better this year than ever before. He's striking out more than 10 batters for every 9 innings pitched. He's done that each of the previous 3 seasons. But this year he is walking only 1 batter per 9 innings. That's down from what had been his usual rate of 2.5 per 9. And Scherzer said after his last start, he was asked about the fact he's only walked 1 batter total in his last 4 starts. And said he's really happy with that. So that's one of the first things you look at as a pitcher, how many walks you give up. And when you have an outing where you don't give up any walks in 7 innings, that's always going to put a smile on your face, because you know you're going right after the hitters, and you know you're not going to give in any situation. And with his stuff, he never has to give in. That's in there for a strike, 1-2.
That strikeout rate per 9 innings for Scherzer, it figures to go up when coming to the National League because he doesn't have to face a designated hitter.
Here from Detroit. Pretty good hitters in the American League, regardless. Plus, he's added a cut fastball to the arsenal this offseason, so he's got now 5 legit pitches he can throw. He's got fastball, cutter, changeup, curveball, slider. Throws them all for strikes. And has had outstanding command all year. And when he's got that, the command, that he's got all those pitches, he's really able to attack the strike zone. Locate the fastball to both sides of the plate. And with that, he can really mix and match all 5 pitches.
There were some questions early on in his career about his violent finish to his delivery, and a lot of people thought that was going to cause future arm problems.
So far, so good. 1-2. Can't put Ender away here with 2 on and 2 out. The first thing Matt Williams said about Max Scherzer last month after his regular season debut, that he just said, as advertised. A 7-pitch first, a 5-pitch fourth. It down, and Scherzer strands 2 through 5. He's got an 11-0 lead, and Bryce Harper will lead off the 6th for the Nationals. Brought to you in part by your Valley Honda dealer, where you'll get more standard features for less money. CenturyLink, your link to what's next. And by Mix One, great taste, no face, available at local retailers. 6th inning in downtown Phoenix. Things have not gone the Diamondbacks' way tonight. The Nationals with 4 in the first, 6 in the second. They lead at 11-0. Some defensive changes for the D-backs. Chris Owings moves from shortstop to second base, replacing Aaron Hill, and Nick Ahmed takes over at short. Harper leads it off for the Nats. There's Nick Ahmed in the game. So Goldie came out early, trying to get him a few innings off this year. Now Aaron Hill is out of the ball game. Harper, an RBI single. He scored a run in the second, 1 for 3. And we have determined that this is good luck whenever Harper's up. The Churro Dog song. Harper is hitless whenever that song is played, and so it's 11-0. That's all we got here. So we're going to give it a shot and see if it works here. Don't worry, El Nino, we got your back. He's behind now, 3 balls and a strike.
Good location, but as we talked about earlier, Bryce Harper not chasing a lot of pitches out of the zone anymore.
He's leading the major leagues in walks, and he takes a base on balls to open up the 6th.
That's another byproduct of being locked in at the plate. You know very quickly when that ball leaves the pitcher's hand whether it's going to be a fastball, a slider, a changeup. Is it going to be in the strike zone, out of the strike zone? Do I want to swing at it or not? And when you can slow the game down the way Bryce Harper has, all those things happen very, very quickly, and you tend to lay off those pitches out of the zone and take your walks.
Well, Matt Williams doing what Chip Hale has already done, trying to get some of his veteran players a few innings off. So Tyler Moore will hit for Ryan Zimmerman. Moore just 5 for 25 this year, 2 extra base hits, and he looks at ball 1. Tyler Moore played just over 40 games with the Nationals last year, hit about 234 homers. And he's been with the Washington organization since he was drafted in 08. He's out of options and says this is kind of a crucial year for him. And he's looking for an opportunity. He's a nice player, just turned 28 in January. He's a pretty good hitter, just there's no room for him here. Because, you know, they have Zimmerman at first. They have Worth and Harper at corner outfield spots. That's where Moore plays. They just can't find a defensive spot for the bat. And Thomas Boswell just wrote in the Washington Post earlier this year that even Moore's teammates can't wait for the day that he's free to leave Washington so he can get a full-time job somewhere, because a lot of them think that this will be a kind of a Josh Willingham type of player, type of hitter for several very good years if he can just get a chance somewhere. And that they believe Moore deserves to have a real career someplace as a starting player, but there's no room for him here in D.C. 2-1.
Well, the Nationals definitely wanted him. They drafted him 3 times in 2005, 2006 before finally signing him in 2008.
I think the Josh Willingham comp is a good one. He kind of seems like Willingham up there, and they believe he can be that type of hitter. Nuno strikes him out. That's 5 strikeouts for Vidal Nuno, 1 down in the 6th.
Well, Bryce Harper, we mentioned he's never faced a pitcher younger than him at the major league level. Well, that's because there's very few people in the big leagues younger than Bryce Harper. In his 4th major league season at 22 years, 206 days old. Of course, Archie Bradley not far behind, but still older than Bryce Harper.
Wilson Ramos, a 3-run double in the 2nd. He's 1 for 3. Well, every spring ESPN the magazine conducts a player poll. They have their big baseball preview issue. And the Nationals were projected to win 91 games, the most in the major leagues. But what they do for their poll is they poll 117 major league players, and it's all anonymous. And they asked who was the most overrated player in the majors. And the winner, with 41% of the vote from the other players, is Bryce Harper. Yasiel Puig was second with 15%, but it's the 2nd straight year that Harper and Puig finished 1 and 2 in the most overrated category in that player poll. He's got a lot of guys that still just aren't kind of feeling what Bryce Harper's doing out there.
I think a lot of that has to do with the enormous amount of media attention that Bryce Harper and Yasiel Puig also draw. They get a lot of headlines, a lot of pictures in the paper. Every time they turn around, they're involved in some kind of a controversy. I'd take both of them on my team.
You bet. Well, Freddie Gonzalez, the Braves manager, Nationals just swept Atlanta. He was asked over the weekend about Harper, and Freddie said that Harper has his fans and he has people who don't like him for whatever reason. But Freddie pointed out, you know, he thinks that the young man has done a terrific job growing up under the microscope of the major leagues. He's only 22. And he's probably correct about that, because it's easy to forget that Harper is a 2-time National League All-Star. This is his 4th big league season already, just 22 years old. Gonzalez said that some people, you know, he just rubs some people the wrong way. That's all.
Well, you know, he came to the big leagues with a lot of pub and went right out and was flashy and aggressive, and probably rubbed some people the wrong way. Felt he should suffer and he should struggle before you can have that kind of fun at the big league level.
Well, you know, Gonzalez said, look, you might not like the hair, the beard, some of the stuff he says in the paper, but he also said there's 50 guys that love you, there's 5 guys that hate you, and it's the 5 guys that hate you that end up getting hurt in any walk of life, especially in this era of social media. Nuno strikes out Ramos. That's 6 strikeouts for El Nuno. He's now over 70 pitches in the ball game in relief of Josh Colmenter.
I'm thinking about Harper. The poor kid didn't even finish high school, for crying out loud. Took his GED so he could enter college early.
Played at the College of Southern Nevada for about 10 minutes.
Was a catcher in college. I mean, he played some outfield. He played a little first base, but his primary position was behind the plate. So with that in mind, I asked Matt Williams before the game. I always ask the manager, who's your third catcher? If something should happen to your starting guy and your backup guy. I know Bryce Harper's caught before. Matty immediately said, oh no. There's no way I would put him behind the plate. I like my job too much.
He's a smart manager. Ian Desmond. Well, Harper says he loves talking to Matt Williams about hitting. They apparently have discussions all the time, and he says Matty is very impressive with what he has to say, and says it's a lot of fun to talk to him about approach and what he's feeling, what Williams sees that Harper is doing. Base hit for Desmond. Matty really seems, and this looked like it would be no small feat, he really seems to have gotten through to Bryce Harper. And he's got him convinced that it's not how far you hit the homers, it's how many. Because we talked about that earlier. Harper would always swing for the light towers all the time. And he has managed to convince Bryce Harper that you can hit it a long way and that you don't have to fully swing every time to do that. Danny Espinosa.
But you do have to run 90 feet after you hit the ball. Matt Williams benched Bryce Harper for what he termed a lack of effort, a lack of hustle on a ball in play. Just kind of jogged down the first baseline, and I think that was Matty's first shot across the bow. Hey, I'm in charge here, and you're going to play for me. You're going to run everything out. And after that, they've had a great relationship.
Did you ever have a guy like that when you were the skipper?
No, the closest we came was solved by Matt Williams and Jay Bell. We had a young player by the name of Doug DeVore that we called up from Tucson and hit a home run to right field here at then Bank One ballpark, and stood in the box and watched it and then jogged around the bases very stylishly. And I was about to jump him when he got back to the dugout, but I couldn't do it because Matty and Jay Bell and Mark Grace were standing on the top step waiting on it. We don't do that here. And that was the last time I saw Doug DeVore style on a home run.
Having guys like that on your team really has to make the manager's job easier.
Yeah, it absolutely does.
0-2 on Espinosa. And Vidal Nuno. See if Joe West says that's a strikeout. Yes, he does. That's 7 strikeouts for Nuno. Joe West wants to see the ball. He rung him up to end the inning and then changed his mind. That's a swing and a miss, right? Or am I missing something?
Yeah, it's a swing and a miss.
I guess he ruled foul ball. There's your strikeout. 3 strikeouts in the game for El Nuno. He has struck out 7 in the ball game. The Nationals lead the Diamondbacks 11-0.
And your D-backs from Arizona.
begins with another doubleheader of division rivalries. It starts with the Braves and the Marlins, and then the Pirates and the Cubs. Coverage begins at 10 a.m. on Fox Sports 1 and streaming live on Fox Sports Go. Some defensive changes for Matt Williams Nationals, up 11-0 as we start the bottom of the 6th. Tyler Moore, who hit for Ryan Zimmerman, stays in the game and takes over at first base. And Clint Robinson is the new left fielder replacing Jason Worth. A.J. Pollock leads off the Arizona 6th. Pollock, Pacheco, Peralta 2, 3, and 4. A.J. so far 0 for 2. He struck out his last time up. Electronic scorecard. Kind of like that. That's nice. We got to get one of those. Good seats right behind home plate. 1 and 2. Max Scherzer, 5 scoreless innings so far. He's given up just 4 hits. No walks and 3 strikeouts. They get 4 strikeouts. He rings up Pollock.
Well, when the D-backs win, you win at Papa John's. A day after every Diamondbacks win, you get 50% off your regular menu price online order at Papa John's. Enter promo code DBACKS50 at papajohns.com.
Well, we've just been scoring too many runs there, BB, and frankly, we had to cut back. A little diet here. Yeah. Every once in a while, have a slim down day.
Afford to lose a few pounds.
Well, who couldn't? Jordan Pacheco took over for Goldie early in the ball game after the Nationals led 10-0 after 2 innings. Ryan Zimmerman had a 3-run homer in the first after Denard Span had a leadoff homer to begin the ball game. Wilson Ramos a 3-run double in the second. Those are the big hits so far. As Josh Colmenter gave up 9 runs, all earned on 8 hits, and got only 4 outs. And Nuno has been on in relief ever since. 1-1 to Pacheco. In there for a strike.
Max Scherzer atop the list of most strikeouts since the beginning of the 2012 season. Teammate Steven Strasburg not far down on the list.
This year, Clayton Kershaw and James Shields, the only National League pitchers who have struck out more batters this year than Max Scherzer.
See if he throws another changeup on this next pitch to A.J. Pollock. A couple times in this game, he's been very visibly frustrated with a pitch. That time he bounced the changeup over in the left-handed batter's box. He did the same thing earlier in the ball game and came right back with another changeup. Looks like a fastball this time. Even starting this sequence to A.J. Pollock, he left a slider up and in on the first pitch, came right back with a second slider in the middle of the strike zone. It's almost like he's working on things out there tonight.
Struck out Pollock looking to open up this inning, and now he's full on Pacheco 3-2. Peralta on deck. Jordan launches it toward the left field corner and gone. Jordan Pacheco, the home run. Diamondbacks are on the board. Just the 3rd home run given up this year by Max Scherzer. And it's 11-1. That was a no-doubter.
That time Scherzer missed his location with a cut fastball. Ramos wants it away. It ends up on the inside corner of the plate. And Jordan Pacheco put a charge on it. Right down that left field line into the Diamondbacks bullpen.
His 2nd of the season. David Peralta 0 for 2. Shortstop. Desmond collects it and throws him out. 2 down. Brings up Yasmani Tomas.
Third baseman, Yasmani Tomas.
Just the 5th hit for the Diamondbacks, but Jordan Pacheco with a solo homer gets him on the board. Tomas 0 for 2. Chip Hale says Yasmani Tomas making solid contact. He's hitting the ball all over the field. And he says the home runs will come. The D-backs, he says, just have to keep Tomas focused on what he does best right now. And that's swinging at good pitches, making contact, most of the time driving the ball to right center field. Chases that one and strikes out. 5 strikeouts for Scherzer, but Jordan Pacheco's second home run of the season has the Diamondbacks on the board. And it's an 11-1 ball game as we go to the 7th. Here's what's next, brought to you by CenturyLink. We'll see Denard Span, who started things off tonight with a home run, coming up. Is brought to you in part by Chaz Roberts, Air Conditioning and Plumbing. Choose Chaz. Always a highlight here at the ballpark. A lucky fan has to field 3 high fly balls from the pitching machine that Baxter tosses in there. And our guy tonight got the first 2. Do we have the third as Max Scherzer steps up?
He caught that one too.
You got to get all 3.
For entertainment purposes only, no wagering, please.
So he got the first 2, and this is the money ball here. Can he go 3 for 3?
I got it. Yeah, baby.
Nailed it. Scherzer leads off the Washington 7th against Fidel Nuno, who's now over 80 pitches in the ball game, on in relief of Josh Colmenter, who got only 4 outs tonight. And Scherzer has a couple of base hits. He scored a run. Max Scherzer in Washington got the big contract, 7 years, $210 million. And the funny thing about his deal was it's a very unusual contract. He got a $50 million signing bonus. Those are good if you can get them.
Yeah.
But the back end of the contract, roughly $105 million of the $210 is deferred. Oh, this is bounced to second base. Owings is in. So Max Scherzer will get 7 different installments of $15 million each every year on July 1st from 2022 all the way until 2028. $15 million a year every year. That check's going to show up at the door all the way up until almost until 2030.
Oh my.
Nice work if you can get it. I mean, they have so many high-profile guys on this team. Their payroll's over $160 million that they had to get creative if they were going to bring Scherzer in, and they certainly did. Here's Span. And started things off with a leadoff homer.
Well, you know, partner, when money's not an issue, it's pretty easy to put a starting rotation together. And that's kind of what the Nationals have done. Opened the checkbook and spent a lot of money for their 5 guys. Mike Rizzo at the helm of this ball club.
Yeah, they went out and got Fister. They went out and got Scherzer. They went out and got Gio Gonzalez. Some will call off Tomas there. Of course, they drafted Strasburg #1 overall. Jordan Zimmerman might be the best pitcher in that group. I know Scherzer's rolling along here, but Zimmerman has been really one of the top under the radar guys the last few years in the big leagues. And he's headed for free agency. They think there's a chance they will lose Zimmerman, Desmond, and Span here because contracts are coming up. And Desmond figures to be at least $100 million guy. Here's Escobar, 4 for 4 so far. Make it 5 for 5. Yunel Escobar. 5 for 5, all singles for number 5.
Boy, he loves to hack at that first pitch. We used to talk about guys like Yunel Escobar in our advance meetings. He likes to get his at bat over with quickly. Either a hit or an out, but I don't want to be up there all night long. He loves to attack that first pitch anywhere near the strike zone. How about this to put it into perspective? We showed you the salaries for the starting 5 for the Washington Nationals this year. Hall of Famer Walter Johnson won a world championship for the Washington Senators back in 1924. In a 21-year career, he made under $250,000.
Big money. The big train.
Yeah, it was a big deal then.
Here's Clint Robinson, who took over for Jason Worth in left field.
That's about half the minimum now for a season. That's what he made in a 21-year career.
That's meal money these days. That's in the seats. Clint Robinson. Nationals have a lot of injuries right now, especially in their outfield. We mentioned how they're without their third baseman Rendon. They don't have Reed Johnson, and they don't have Nate McLouth. Both those outfielders are on the DL right now. So Robinson getting some playing time here. He's checked into 22 games and is hitting under 220 on the year. Vidal Nuno has come on in relief of Colementor, and he's hit 93 pitches right now, 61 strikes. After Colementor was gone after 1 1/3. How about this? Vidal Nuno has thrown 21 more pitches in relief than Max Scherzer has in starting. That's in there for a called strike 3. Now 8 strikeouts for El Nino, which is Spanish for the Nuno.
Conclusion of this one, and Joey, we talked about it on Diamondbacks Live, the pregame show, about Josh Collmenter not letting Bryce Harper beat him, but Bryce was the least of his worries, right?
Yeah, unfortunately, Todd, it started with the first batter of the game. Denard Span hits the home run, and Josh just couldn't get back from that. He was really not locating his fastball at all, and the Nationals were teeing off on him. I'll break down his outing and show you what went wrong.
All right, we'll do that. And also, Steve and Bob, as we send it back to you, the one thing we know about Josh, he'll be standing in front of his locker in that Diamondbacks clubhouse, and he will speak to what happened tonight. Always a great insight, and a guy that's not afraid to face the music. So that'll be a part of Diamondbacks Live, the postgame show, coming up in a bit. Right now, we'll send it back to you.
Well, you are absolutely right about that, Josh. Professional as always, and I'm sure that he'll answer every question after the ball game. And what was certainly the most disappointing start of his career. 9 runs all earned on 8 hits. He got only 4 outs tonight. Nick Ahmed leads off the Diamondbacks 7th against Max Scherzer.
You know, if there's any pitcher on the Diamondbacks that deserves a hall pass for a bad outing, it's Josh Collmenter. I said it at the top of the show. He has bailed this team out on numerous occasions throughout his career, but especially this season.
Well, he came in 3-1 over his previous 4 starts. The ERA over that span was under 2.5. He had really pitched well lately, but it just got away in a hurry tonight. Escobar throws out Ahmed 1 away. Well, look at our Chevron upcoming pitching matchup for tomorrow here. And this one, we're going to see a lot of heat. The operative word tomorrow night is fastball. Steven Strasburg and Ruby De La Rosa. We'll also have a couple of unique segments on our broadcast tomorrow night. We're going to add some enhancements, some elements, and talk about defense during the broadcast tomorrow night. So that should be fun.
If those two guys are on top of their game tomorrow night, the only defense you're going to need is a catcher.
You better believe it. We'll have a microphone on third base coach Andy Green, who was responsible for all the defensive shifts that the Diamondbacks employ, with the help of Dr. Ed Lewis, who runs the analytics department here. Chris Owings tonight, 2 for 2. Unusual that this is an 11-1 game started by Josh Collmenter, because when he's been on the mound, the Diamondbacks have been scoring a bunch of runs. D-backs came into the ball game averaging 6.7 runs per game this year in games started by Josh Collmenter, but they're down here 11-1. In terms of run support, that's 5th best in the major leagues. Look out, Andy Green.
That's why the third base coach with a right-handed pull hitter stands as deep as he does down there. Andy Green is a good 15 or 20 feet behind that third base coach's box.
Owings strikes out. That's 6 strikeouts for Scherzer. Good thing he's short.
Catcher,
Some third base coaches with a dead pull right-handed hitter up there stand way over on the warning track to get as far away from that foul line and that coach's box as they can, give themselves enough time to react.
Be interesting to poll all the National League third base coaches and find out who's the guy that you hate to see coming up. You'd probably hear Goldie a few times, I'm sure. Giancarlo Stanton, guys like that. All those big right-hand power hitters. Tuffy singled his last time up, 1 for 2. Tuffy 1 for 3 with a double in yesterday's win over the Padres. So counting tonight, he's got 9 hits in his last 7 games.
Aaron Hill might get some votes from third base coaches. He can hit some screamers down that way.
You betcha. Well, Tuffy to bat has come alive since the addition of Jared Saltalamacchia. He was asked about that last week, in fact, said it's a non-factor. He comes to the ballpark same way every day and has for the last 10 years. Taking some home run swings here. It's 2-2. Mike Podsiadlik down there, our Golden Glover down the left field line.
Nice job, Mike.
Nice play by Podsiadlik. Ernie Ned. There's Ernie down the right field line.
Got that big old outfielder's glove. Ernie's ready.
Just like Jake from State Farm wearing those khakis. 2-2 to Tuffy. That's a good baseball name. Mike Podsiadlik. Three-two pitch.
I wonder if Matt Williams might think about pulling the plug on Scherzer just to save him some pitches for future starts. No other reason to take him out of this ball game. He is absolutely on cruise control.
Well, his ERA coming into the ball game for the year was 2.11, seventh best in the National League. That's going to go down here. Nationals bullpen is busy. Scherzer now at 90 pitches, 66 for strikes. Another 3-2 to Tuffy. Ball four. How about Max Scherzer walking somebody? He's only walked 5 guys all year. And in his previous 4 starts had walked exactly 1 batter. But he issues a 2-out walk to Gojewicz here in the 7th. And Nuno will hit. That's pretty impressive. Last 5 starts counting tonight, he's walked 2 guys. His ERA right now 2.01, Max Scherzer, for the season. We did the math. Well, Nuno came on in relief. He's already 0 for 2 at the plate tonight and has thrown more pitches in relief than Scherzer has in starting. Wilson Ramos behind the plate. The Nuno jerseys are out tonight. They love them here.
Somebody was watching the transaction wire today to bring that jersey to the ball game tonight.
Finger on the heartbeat of D-back Nation. Well, Nuno, you might recall, was scheduled to start that final spring training game of the year that first weekend in April here at Chase Field against the Cubs, but was a last-minute scratch, and that led to speculation he was about to be traded. But they held on to him. Bounces it to second. Espinosa is there, and that's the inning. Scherzer strands the 2-out walk. He leads it 11-1. Exploded against Josh Comenter. Denard Span a leadoff homer. Ryan Zimmerman a 3-run homer in the first. Washington then got 6 in the second. Comenter chased after 1 1/3. And Vidal Nuno has come in and he's done a pretty good job. He's worked 5 2/3 innings so far. He's given up 2 runs on 7 hits. He's walked 2 and has a career high 8 strikeouts.
Yeah, he's done tonight what J.C. Ramirez did yesterday. Saved the rest of the bullpen, but Nuno has looked outstanding tonight. His command has been good. The breaking ball a lot sharper than we remember from last year.
Came in, walked the first batter he faced, Zimmerman, then gave up a bases loaded 3-run double to Wilson Ramos. But after that, just the occasional single here and there. He has walked 2. He's got 8 strikeouts, and Harper leads off the inning for Washington. Let's try our good luck charm one more time here. Science! I think we're on to something. The Churro Dog song. It's messing with Bryce Harper's mojo.
We don't need an advance meeting. We don't care what he hits or what he doesn't hit. Just sing to him.
Roll the Churro Dog song, and he's going to take the offer. Harper does have an RBI single and a walk tonight. Tyler Moore. Pitch number 100 from El Nino coming up. Hey fans, MLB.TV Premium, the #1 live streaming sports service, is celebrating 13 years. You can watch every out-of-market game live or on demand in True HD on over 400 mobile and connected devices. Real-time highlights, live look-ins, the pitch tracking widget, and a whole lot more. Bounce to Tomas at third. Blackout rules do apply. Visit MLB.TV for details. 2 down in the 8th.
We were talking about Tyler Moore earlier and how his teammates and everybody with the organization hoping he gets an opportunity to play regularly somewhere. That happens a lot more than you realize in Major League Baseball. A good player trapped at a position where there's just nowhere for him to go. I mean, think about a first baseman in the Diamondback system right now behind Paul Goldschmidt.
Yeah, good luck.
Where are you going to go? I mean, unless you can play another position or unless Goldie moves to another position, you're probably not going to get the opportunity no matter what kind of numbers you put up at the minor league level.
Wilson Ramos, the catcher. Well, Moore, when he was coming up in the national system, had back-to-back 31 home run seasons. One in A ball, the other in double A. Look out! Carried off the top of the Diamondback dugout and in the seats. And the Chase Field staff immediately down there to make sure everybody's okay. And thankfully everyone is. That gentleman has a souvenir. I don't think he wants it.
Throw it back.
And give it to his buddy. Thumbs up. Nice job.
One of the longer bat tosses we've ever seen. That thing went down way past the end of the dugout.
It's like an Olympic hammer throw. Ramos sounded like he broke that bat. Gets it up in the air to Peralta, and Nuno has a 1-2-3-8. It's 11-1 Nationals. It's caught up on a full night of NHL and NBA playoff action, plus all the highlights from tonight's Major League Baseball games. You can see Fox Sports Live tonight, 10 o'clock on Fox Sports 1. Or watch it simulcast right here on Fox Sports Arizona following the Diamondbacks live postgame show. Bottom 8th here at Chase Field. New pitcher for the Washington Nationals is the right-hander Blake Trinan. It's a power righty, it says. He was up with the Nationals 6 different times last season. This is his 14th appearance this year. The ERA is over 5. Bryce Harper is out of the ball game now as Michael Taylor replaces him in right field. Ender Inciarte doubled in the third. He's 1 for 3. Leads off the Diamondbacks 8th. There's Michael Taylor. Young guy they like a lot. A lot of speed out there. Base hit for Inciarte. Slaps it the other way. He's 2 for 4. A.J. Pollock now.
A.J. Pollock.
Hopefully this will be the ABS syndrome. Anybody but Scherzer. Man, was he on top of his game tonight.
In 7 innings, gave up 1 run, 5 hits. He walked 1, struck out 6, and Strasburg goes here tomorrow. AJ 0 for 3, struck out his last 2 times up.
Well, this guy's got a power sinker. 95, 96 with a lot of downward movement. There's a lot of different paths to the major leagues. This guy tried to walk on at Arkansas, but the school didn't have a program for walk on, so he transferred to South Dakota State, that baseball hotbed.
Brookings, South Dakota. A lot of baseball there. How about that?
Yeah, here he is pitching in the big leagues with a nasty sinker.
Oakland took him in the 7th round of the 2011 draft. Was traded just before the 2013 season. Part of a 3-team trade. The A's, the Nationals, and the Mariners. Mike Morse involved in that deal. John Jaso. One and 2 on Pollock. Broken back. Espinosa runs it down. Brings up Jordan Pacheco, who is responsible for the lone Diamondback run tonight. Our Chaz Roberts air conditioning cool play of the game. A no doubter into the Diamondback bullpen.
Well, if you're going to have any chance against a pitcher of the caliber of Max Scherzer, you have to take advantage of every mistake, and that's exactly what Jordan Pacheco did. Got a cutter on the inside part of the plate that was intended to be low and away, and did not miss it.
His second home run of the season. There's strike 1. 97. Enrique Burgos, the big right-hander, warming up in the Sanderson Ford bullpen. Jordan has now hit safely in 6 of his last 8 games. He was on base twice Saturday when he started behind the plate, had a single, and then had that big base on balls with 2 outs in the 9th that started the game tying rally against Padres closer Craig Kimbrell. Trinan just consistent high 90s. Third, Escobar goes the short way. They turn it, and that's the inning. We will go to the 9th. The Diamondbacks trail at 11-1. That was the Cox Gig Life high-speed highlights. Rough night for D-backs Nation here. 11-1 in the ninth, and the big right-hander Enrique Burgos is on to pitch the Nationals' ninth. Ian Desmond will lead it off. Josh Colementor chased after 1 1/3 tonight. 9 runs all earned on 8 hits. Nats got 4 in the first and 6 in the second. They were up 10-0 going into the bottom of the second inning. Enrique Burgos, his 6th appearance of the year. And Fidel Nuno did a pretty good job holding down the fort. He worked 6 2/3 innings in relief of Colementor. Gave up 2 runs on 7 hits, walked 2, had a career high 8 strikeouts. Nuno in relief threw 105 pitches in 6 2/3. Max Scherzer went 7 innings for the Nationals. He threw only 94 pitches. 1-1 to Desmond. Desmond singled his last time up. He's 1 for 4.
A lot of people are probably saying, well, what's the big deal? He threw 6 2/3 when the team was already way behind in the ball game. But you very easily could have burned through 5 or 6 pitchers in the bullpen tonight after an inning and a third from the starter Josh Colementor. And Nuno, his ability to go as long as he did.
And that's considering Saturday they had to use 6 relievers in that extra inning game and then piece together a bullpen game here yesterday.
Yeah.
Hey, fans, bring the whole family to the ballpark this summer with the D-backs value pack for just $19. You'll get a ticket to the game, a Subway sandwich, a Pepsi, and a coupon for a free cookie. The value pack is available for any game this year. You can get one online right now at dbacks.com/value. It's full on Desmond, 3 balls and 2 strikes. Danny Espinosa in the on-deck circle. Pitcher spot due up after that. Actually, Taylor's due up after that. Pitcher spot is now 4th in the Nationals order. Joe West rings him up. Burgos strikes out Desmond, 1 down.
I'll tell you what, if you want to set your defensive charts on how to play Ian Desmond, put a defender right there. Gentleman wearing the Ernie Banks shirt caught 2 foul balls in 1 at bat.
Well, it's such a beautiful day. Let's get 2.
Had him played perfectly. How about that?
Not a bad day at the ballpark in an 11-1 game. Espinosa has 2 singles. He has scored twice. He struck out twice. How about this, BB? The picture of Danny Espinosa. This is his official picture. It's in all the media guides. It's up there on the DBTV board right now.
Goo goo goo.
Him and Lincoln. Looks like he's shaved off at least part of it.
Yeah, Danny Espinosa is one of those guys that can shave before batting practice, and you'll have a 5 o'clock shadow by the end of the game.
Got that Alex Avila thing going. Nationals' big hitting hero tonight, Yunel Escobar. 5 for 5. His second 5-hit game this year. Burgos strikes out Espinosa. Yunel Escobar batting second for the Nats tonight. 5 for 5, all singles. He has scored twice. Both of Escobar's 5-hit games this year have been all singles. There have been 4 5-hit games in the majors this year, 2 of them by Yunel Escobar. Well, here's a young guy they like a lot. It's Michael Taylor, right-hand hitter, just turned 24 last month. Some impressive power and some big-time speed. He's one of their top prospects. He spent most of last year with AA Harrisburg. The numbers this season on Taylor. 98 games at AA last year, hit .313, 22 home runs, and stole 34 bases. A 6th round pick out of high school in Fort Lauderdale in '09.
Stole 51 the year before at Potomac. Only got caught 7 times.
Had a 17-game audition with the Nationals last September. Didn't do a ton, but they liked the raw ability. Ahmed at short throws him out. Burgos 2 strikeouts and a ground ball in the 9th. Home half coming up. It's 11-1. Matt Williams, Nationals.
Game reaction from this one, but Joe, Nuno, a quality start in relief, right?
It sure was, and it's exactly what the Diamondbacks needed. When your starter only goes an inning and a third, somebody has to step up. He did a great job getting them in through the 8th.
I can't wait to take a look at that, guys. We're standing by waiting. Jody Jackson down on field level inside the clubhouse. The normal drill. D-backs Live coming up in moments. We'll send it back to you.
Thank you very much, Todd. That's a good way to put it. The good news is that Nuno had a quality start. The bad news is it was in relief. Right, and back out there for the 9th. David Peralta leads it off for the Diamondbacks. Peralta, Tomas, and Ahmed here in the 9th. Hit a homie. Home slice. 0-1. Peralta hits that one in the seats. And it's a ball and 2 strikes.
Yeah, you always try to pull some kind of a positive after a stinker like this tonight. But back in 01, 02, those guys used to say, let's give him a finish. Let's make him get into that bullpen and bring another pitcher, maybe 2 more pitchers into this ball game before we're going to go home. Might weaken that bullpen a little bit for the next 2 games of this series. It's something to hang on to. Give him a finish.
Blake Trinan trying to finish it out for the Nationals. Their bullpen quiet right now. Throwing hard all night here. It's full 3-2 on Peralta. If you go back to late April, Peralta hitting .205 on the year. Really wasn't getting consistent playing time, but he's really picked it up here since the end of last month. .364 over his last 11 games. 4 doubles, 2 homers, 7 RBIs in those 11 games. And he's battling Trinan here. Another 3-2 coming up. with Tomas on deck. Leadoff walk. That's a good start. This is our Ernie Banks fan that caught the 2 balls there, BB. He gave each baseball away to a kid.
Nicely done. Outstanding.
Let's have another look.
A couple of caroms out of the upper deck, dropped right down to him on the lower level. Grabbed that one, gave it to a kid. And then a couple pitches later in the same at bat, the same guy.
It's
Who
your
wants
day.
a ball? Who wants a ball? There you go. Nicely done. Ernie'd be proud of you.
Tomas 0 for 3, struck out twice.
Saguaro Sabercats, yeah. We'll give you that one. The Cubs jersey, I can't figure that out. The game between the Diamondbacks and the Nationals.
Drop to Escobar at third. Peralta moves up 90 feet. Yunel Escobar has had a very interesting season down there at third base for the Nationals. He's been almost exclusively a shortstop his whole career. They have Ian Desmond there in Washington, so they figured Escobar could plug in at second base. They traded reliever Tyler Clippard, who's been really good for them, to Oakland back in January to get Escobar here to play second. But he hasn't played even a single inning at second base this year because Anthony Rendon's been hurt. His situation keeps getting worse. So Escobar, who hadn't played any third base at all since 2007, has done nothing but play third base here after he was brought in to be their second baseman. 1-0 to Nick Ahmed.
I think conventional thinking is if you're a good enough athlete to play shortstop, you've got enough arm to make that play in the hole, enough range to make the play up the middle, it should be easy to move over to third base. Obviously, considerably different angle and consistently longer throws, but Escobar was always a pretty good shortstop.
And he's been a pretty good third baseman for them. And in the meantime, Espinosa and Dan Ugla have kind of held down the fort at second. 1-2 on Nick Ahmed. And Ahmed strikes out.
Well, and he's hit like a third baseman. 2 5-hit games this season. Tonight and May 4th also. His teammate Denard Span back on April 28th. That was the game that they came back against the Braves, and a lot of the Nationals think that was the propeller for this recent hot streak they've been on.
And both of Escobar's 5-hit games this year have been 5 for 5 with 5 singles. Owings. It's the 0-2 for 3. He's got a pair of singles. Peralta, the runner at second, 2 down. Don't forget tomorrow, Diamondback Live pregame show at 6 o'clock on Fox Sports Arizona. Ruby De La Rosa versus Steven Strasburg. And then Wednesday afternoon, it's Hellickson and Gio Gonzalez.
Well, pardon me, think back to last Thursday, our first throwback Thursday of the season, and we highlighted Randy Johnson's 7-inning relief outing against the Padres when the light tower blew up, struck out 16 guys in relief. Vidal Nuno's 6 2/3 innings of relief tonight is the second longest relief appearance in history. So only Randy Johnson.
He threw 105 pitches in relief in 6 2/3. So back with you for game 2 of this 3-game set tomorrow. Diamondback Live pregame show at 6. 3 against the Nationals, and then we hit the road there, BB. We go to Philadelphia and Miami. Archie Bradley is going to pitch Saturday at Citizens Bank Park. You and I will be eating cheesesteaks at Tony Luke's. That's a foul ball. Philadelphia is also the place where they have that chicken and donuts.
I think Joe West called him
rule it that hit him, and that's the ball game.
Box, yeah.
He initially signaled foul ball and then called Owings out. And that's the end of the ball game. Here comes Chip Hale. Joe West just walking out. Watch Joe West signal. It hits. Oh, he's in the box. He's in the box.
Oh, yeah. He didn't have either foot out of the box right there.
I don't think Joe West could see it because he was blocked. He initially ruled foul ball, then called Owings out for being hit out of the batter's box. That's the end of the ball game, but you can clearly see that CO was in the box when the ball hit him. And now Joe West, who was halfway to the clubhouse, has returned, and he'll have the discussion with Chip Hill.
Well, this is definitely a play you need to get some help from the base umpires, because he still has both feet in the batter's box when the ball hits it.
I mean, that's not even close.
Not even close.
The Nationals are walking off the field. Chip Hale going to get Kerwin Danley involved. He's the first base umpire. What did you see? I mean, that's as blatantly a missed call as there is. But down 11-1 in the ninth, it looks like Chip is going to punt. And that's the end of the ball game. Nationals win the first game of this 3-game series, 11-1, and they out-hit the Diamondbacks 15-6. Well, BB, just have to come back and get them tomorrow, Strasburg and De La Rosa.
Yeah, I mean, nothing much you can do about this when Josh Comenter in a rare off night has put the team behind the 8 ball rather early in this game, but they were able to hold the Nats down after that. Just got to come back tomorrow and get after him again.
Well, let's get Joe Borowski's analysis now of what happened with Josh Comenter. 9 runs all earned on 8 hits. He lasted only 1 1/3. Todd Walsh standing by. Let's start Diamondbacks Live. Todd.
All right, thank you, Steve. You just did. We welcome you to it. And Joe Borowski, let's just be honest here. These are difficult games to finish, I'm sure, when you're on the other end and maybe even on the other side. Hard to broadcast, hard to really break down in terms of analysis, but we really have some things to do.
Absolutely. There's a lot of stuff we have to break down.
We're going to take a look at Josh Coleman tonight, but on the other side of it, I can't wait because we want to look at Max Scherzer and his night tonight. He came as delivered, and so too did that Washington Nationals offense. So 11-1, they take game 1 of this 3-game set. When we come back, we will start our breakdown. We'll go into the Diamondbacks clubhouse. We'll also hear from skipper Chip Hale, and I am sure some comments from Josh Comenter at the very least. So stick around. We'll be back. Diamondbacks Live starts in a matter of moments.